What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation Vita. And this isn't going to be any kind of news or anything like that, or any kind of literal game discussion. It's just kind of story time, talking about whenever I first picked up my PlayStation Vita, and pretty much the moment that I realized that Sony had made something special, and that I would be playing for quite a number of years after I purchased it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, PlayStation Vita launch day. I was a sophomore in high school, and I remember it very well. My birthday is in a couple of weeks, so needless to say, back then I was getting pretty excited. You know, my parents always ended up buying me something pretty awesome, and that year I had asked for a PlayStation Vita because I had been looking forward to it for a number of months. As early as I can remember it, I was looking forward to it whenever it was called the NGP, because I had been a fan of handhelds for the majority of my life. In fact, the first gaming console or system that I had owned was a Game Boy Color that my parents had purchased for me probably when I was about 3 or 4. After that, I got a Game Boy Advance. I had a Game Boy Advance SP. I had a Nintendo DS, like the first model with the terrible screen resolution and the first generation touchpad that was kind of sketchy. And then I had a PSP 1000, which is where I did the primary portion of my handheld gaming as a younger kid. So, needless to say, since the PlayStation Vita was being considered the next generation portable, or the sequel to the PSP, I was really excited about it, and so of course I asked for it for my birthday. However, as we all know, the PlayStation Vita was released in late February, and my birthday isn't until March, so my parents and I came to an agreement that they would pick up my pre-order, pay off the rest that I had owed, and then I would get the PlayStation Vita a couple of weeks before my birthday on launch day. So obviously I was extremely excited, and whenever I had pre-ordered it, I actually pre-ordered the Wi-Fi only model, which I assumed would be the one that I would be getting that day. But the guys over at GameStop kind of did a little mess up on my order, and they accidentally gave me the 3G model, which is what I'm holding here today. And that's pretty much where you can pay AT&T a little bit more every month, and you get a wireless connection anywhere in the world where you can get an AT&T signal on your PlayStation Vita. So with you know, if you take that for face value, that means that you're able to play online games sitting in the middle of a park somewhere. But when it comes down to it, the connection that was available for the PlayStation Vita was not enough to support playing online in the middle of a park. It wasn't enough to support fast downloads. To be honest, it was kind of a waste of money, so I never really ended up getting into the 3G side of the PlayStation Vita. But needless to say, as a interesting little side note, I do have the 3G Wi-Fi model version of the PlayStation Vita. But now is where the story really kind of takes a turn, because later on that night I was playing Uncharted Golden Abyss, which is a lesser known entry into the Uncharted franchise that came out exclusively to the PlayStation Vita, and a lot of people, as a side note, were kind of surprised that it wasn't included in the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection released on the PlayStation 4, and I have to admit that I was kind of disappointed in that as well. But it is a great exclusive for the PlayStation Vita. If you have one, you've got to play Uncharted Golden Abyss. But I was sitting there playing that later on that night, and there's a mission early on in the campaign where there is a waterfall that Drake has to cross, and a tree has conveniently fallen across the waterfall, bridging the gap, and so he is obviously going to kind of balance his way across the tree and jump onto the other side. And so whenever you start going across the tree, everything is going well, and then Drake begins losing his balance, and the gyroscopic sensor within the PlayStation Vita kicks in, and you're kind of sitting there going like this, balancing Drake out before he falls to his death in the waterfall. And for many, that just sounds like a stereotypical PlayStation Vita scene, but playing it on the first couple of days after the release of the system, I realized just how revolutionary that this system was for handheld gaming, and I'm kind of disappointed that more people didn't see it now that it's all said and done, and the Vita is kind of wrapping up its life cycle, if we're being honest here. But the graphics of the system are extremely impressive as compared to a PSP, as compared to a older DS, even as compared to the 3DS. The graphics on the PlayStation Vita, in my opinion, blow all of those out of the water. That combined with the control scheme, which is pretty much a direct combination of everything that the DualShock 3 did right on the PlayStation 4 with the body style of a PSP, it complemented the games that were graphically advanced so well that the experiences that I had for the first couple of months on the PlayStation Vita absolutely blew my mind. Of course, I'm talking about Uncharted Golden Abyss. Unit 13 was a fantastic game. I remember playing Resistance. I even enjoyed the Resistance games. The Call of Duty that came out was totally shitty, but that's beside the point. There were a lot of awesome launch titles on the PlayStation Vita. Wipeout 2048 is a great racing game that is still really, really good, and it held up really well over the years as the PlayStation Vita has aged. So those first couple of months of the PlayStation Vita absolutely blew my mind when it comes to the world of handheld gaming. Now, over the next couple of years, the exclusives dropped down a good bit. Obviously, they aren't developing any kind of AAA titles for the PlayStation Vita directly anymore, and the development side for the games has kind of started to decline, which is very disappointing. But the platform has still become a haven for indies and cross-buy titles, which I guess is okay. For instance, I purchased Pixel Junk Shooter on the PlayStation 4, and I was able to play it on the PS Vita. I purchased both Hotline Miami games. I'm able to play them on the Vita. There are a lot of games that are able to be played on the PlayStation 4 that can also be transferred over to the PlayStation Vita, and I suppose that does add a good bit of utility to it. Of course, you can also play the PlayStation 4 games via remote play on your PlayStation Vita, so if you're not near your TV, if you're not near your console, but you are on the same kind of Wi-Fi network, or the same Wi-Fi network itself, rather, you can totally hook up to Remote Play and start playing some of your favorite games like Fallout, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, etc., and they all seem to run fairly well, so of course that is another utility of the PlayStation Vita. But what's really disappointing for me is that, like I said, a lot of awesome games have come out for the Vita. I'm thinking Little Big Planet, I'm thinking Killzone Mercenary, that was a fantastic game. Tearaway was originally on the PlayStation Vita and then was kind of ported to the PlayStation 4. There are so many incredible games that have come out for the system that are getting overshadowed by the features and the kind of utility that it provides for the PlayStation 4. But what it comes down to is that there are a couple of things that are disappointing for me, and none of them have to do with the PlayStation Vita itself. People don't realize how great of a handheld this is. If you've never played with one, please find one from a friend, go to your local GameStop and play one, maybe even your Walmart has a kiosk set up, something along those lines, and just take a couple of minutes to try out a PlayStation Vita. At the moment of making this video, they're $169, brand new special edition from GameStop that you can pick up today, and I highly recommend that you do that, especially if you have a PlayStation Plus subscription with a PlayStation 4 or otherwise. But that's one thing you should definitely do. But what's really disappointing for me is that we're quickly approaching the time where the PlayStation Vita will eventually end production. And that's about the time when all the gaming journalists get together and write their post-mortem articles, kind of giving an overview of the lifespan of the PlayStation Vita, what it did right, what it did wrong. And I know that they're going to focus on three individual things. They're going to focus on the fact that it's able to use remote play with the PlayStation 4, and they're going to highlight that feature. They're going to talk about, like I said, the cross-buy titles and how great that was for the gamers and how economically sensible it was. And then they're going to talk about the price of the memory cards. I absolutely guarantee it, because the memory cards, even 4 years into the release of the console, are still outrageously priced because it is an exclusive peripheral instead of just your standard SD card. But that is exactly what is going to be talked about after the death of the PlayStation Vita. And I'm really kind of dreading that, because what it comes down to is that this was and is a fantastic handheld console, and like I said, if you haven't picked one up or if you haven't tried one out, I can't urge you to do so enough. So there you guys have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, drop me a like down below and comment what you think about the PlayStation Vita. Do you think it stands up to the 3DS? Do you think that it's pretty much just a PSP and nothing more? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Heck, let me know if you even do any handheld gaming or any kind of gaming on the go. And of course, if you are new to the channel or you've never seen any of my other content, I do upload new stuff like 3 or 4 days a week depending on the week, so there's always something new right here on the channel when you drop by to watch some videos. And as always, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this particular video. I'm going to go play some Super Meat Boy on my PlayStation Vita, and peace.